of formality are waived. It is probably the only place where a governor can go without a tie, and that is normal. And we really want to encourage, for those of you coming from many other parts of the country, and maybe you have a list of countries that you must visit with your family, this is one of them. Thank you. And allow me to end by requesting all of us to be upstanding as we invite His Excellency, the Deputy President, Professor Kithure Kindiki. A hand of applause, please. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Please be seated. Good afternoon. Bonjour. Minister Lee, I don't know whether the governor of Mombasa had sent you to campaign for him, because he is facing a re-election next year, because you have said so many good things about him. But I want to confirm those things are true for the reasons which the governor said earlier on. Although there are some things he didn't say, and they better leave unsaid. Once again, good afternoon. It is an honor for me to join you here today and to preside over the official opening of the 32nd African Organization for Standardization, ARSO General Assembly. And this assembly taking place here reminds us, as other speakers have said, of how ancient Mombasa is linked to trade, world trade, through the Indian Ocean trade winds, which brought commerce to this part of the world for many centuries. I know the head of ISO said how the organization was established in 1946. Trade and international trade in Mombasa are more than 10 centuries old. Not just 1 or 2 centuries. Many, many centuries. From 900 BC, AD onwards, there was trade between the east coast of Africa and other parts of the world. And so this is a good place to have the conversations we are having. And on today's occasion, we hope by the end of this week, Mombasa will be again the cradle for a new era of continental economic sovereignty, because what we are discussing here is about the economic freedom of Africa, which is the remaining frontier of freedom for this continent, having overcome colonialism and other forms of oppression. What remains between us and full freedom is economic freedom, and trade is at the center of catalyzing economic freedom of the continent. This meeting is also about an infrastructure that is not drawn by engineers. Is about an infrastructure that is not built by contractors, an infrastructure that is not captured in photographs. Yet without this infrastructure, any port or road or railway we build risks becoming a bridge to nowhere. That infrastructure is called the standard. It is an invisible infrastructure and it is indispensable. I think the president of ISO has said about the World Bank report of 2025, which captured this theme properly. And that report is entitled Standards for Development. And the report confirmed what many of you here already know, which is that standards are not just the fine print of trade, they are the foundation stone for trade. Therefore, A container ship needs a port while a port needs a channel. But a product needs a standard before it requires a ship for its transportation. You get the standard wrong, you leave the standard unharmonized, and the finest port in the world, including the port of Mombasa, becomes a warehouse for goods destined to nowhere. The African Continental Free Trade Area, in which context we are harmonizing the African standards, as a huge market, 1.4 billion people, an economy, combined GDP of 3.4 trillion US dollars, which is an open door for prosperity and economic sovereignty for Africa. You just need to sell your item to one African and you become a billionaire. And you need to make just a profit of $1 or less to become a dollar billionaire. So this is the door that is open for Africa before even going beyond this continent. Our prosperity is already with us here. The question, therefore, that we are trying to answer this week is whether our goods can walk through this open door, which has been presented by the African Continental Free Trade Area. This huge market, which I have already defined, unfortunately is fragmented into 54 regulatory silos. And in that situation, in that state, it is no longer one market. It is 54 small markets putting on a costume of one large market. A cement bag tested in Nairobi and retested in Lagos. A pharmaceutical product certified in Cairo and again recertified in Accra. A solar panel inspected in Kigali and again re-inspected in Dakar is nothing but wasteful duplication. It is duplication, it is a tax on African enterprise, and this burden of duplicated tax is a burden on the small and medium enterprises that this assembly and this continent is relying on for the takeoff of Africa into wealth and prosperity. This is why, therefore, the theme of this assembly, this General Assembly, is very important. One standard, one test, one certificate, accepted everywhere. 4 phrases, one idea. When a Namibian manufacturer tests a product once, and that certificate opens doors in Kinshasa, in Lusaka, Abidjan, in Maseru, without a second inspection, without a second fee, or without a second delay at the border, that achievement is not just a technical achievement, it is Africa economic sovereignty made real by that one certificate. We can look at the situation here in the East African Community region to see how freedom of trade within this continent will look like. Today, within the East Africa Community region, harmonized standards, mutual recognition of conformity assessment, and a shared quality mark have already begun to do what we are looking for at the continental level, which is that this mutual recognition and conformity assessment, which are common, have made a Kenyan good feel less foreign in Kampala, and a Ugandan good feel less foreign in Nairobi. The EAC, therefore, becomes a working prototype, a proof in practice that when neighbors agree, trade stops asking for permission and starts asking for shelf space. This is precisely where the work of ARSO is going to be most consequential. The lesson from the EAC is clear, that what is possible among immediate neighbors is possible across Africa. The challenge before ARSO is to take this regional proof of concept from the EAC and give it a continental scale to turn the promise of the continental free trade area into a functioning single market where standards open borders, certificates carry trust, and compliant African products move freely from one market to another. We must therefore applaud the landmark progress which has already been made in this regard by the adoption last year of the ARSO-ISO Enhanced Cooperation Agreement, the Kigali Agreement, which is already a milestone towards the desired objectives. By establishing a structured framework of cooperation between ARSO and the International Organization for Standardization, ISO, the Kigali Agreement strengthens Africa's ability not just to adopt international standards, but to participate actively in shaping those standards. It bridges our regional priorities with global expectations, helping ensure that African standards are increasingly aligned with international benchmarks and that African products can compete with confidence in global markets. Our ambition must ultimately be simple, that once a product